Thank you, Presiding Officer. During the pandemic, it has been said many times that we are all in it together. Whilst COVID has thrown us all into the same storm, we're most definitely not all in the same boat. The inequalities that have long existed in our economy and society have affected people's survival chances and resilience. Therefore, across the UK, the actions and inactions of governments and decision makers before and during the pandemic must be scrutinised, and we must learn from them as we plan for Scotland's recovery. The poorest people in our country are 2.5 times more likely to die from the virus. That is a scandal, and it should shame all of us in this Parliament that 1 in 4 children in Scotland are in poverty, and this is increasing. So the next Parliament must not only overcome the virus, we must overcome poverty and work towards being an anti-poverty Parliament. Far from being an equaliser, COVID-19 and some of the decisions taken by government in response to the pandemic have exacerbated structural inequalities. The journey through this public health crisis is not yet over. Vaccines, we hope, are the light at the end of the tunnel, and together with tests and treatments, we will get through this. The trauma to our economy and living standards, however, will reverberate for many years unless we take bold action now. Now, with some 21 days until the pre-election recess, it is only right that we devote some of the time remaining to debate Scotland's recovery, the risks that face our citizens and the challenges that the next Parliament must rise to. Scotland is facing a crucial transition. The election is in 64 days and our country remains in the grip of a global pandemic. We need a Parliament of MSPs who will do the hard work to fight for and deliver a people's recovery, to reshape our economy and make it fairer for all. Women are disproportionately impacted by job disruption as a result of COVID-19 and are also more likely to lose their job in the anticipated job recession. Since July, women have accounted for the majority of furloughed workers in Scotland. Women make up the majority of key workers in care, early years and childcare, nursing and in supermarkets, some 77%, but are undervalued, underpaid and underprotected. Research by Close the Gap has concluded that more effective utilisation of women's skills and talents could be a catalyst for economic growth, worth up to £17 billion to Scotland's economy. So women's employment must be central to Scotland's recovery. This is not just a Scottish issue, of course it is a worldwide challenge, and it is one that Scotland should be seeking to tackle head on. In the last couple of weeks, US Vice President Kamala Harris has warned, and I agree with her, that in 1 year, the pandemic has put decades of the progress we have collectively made for women workers at risk. Our economy cannot fully recover unless women can participate fully. I agree with Vice President Kamala Harris. We're also facing the worst job crisis in a generation, with young people set to be hit particularly hard. There is significant evidence that people below the age of 25 are more likely to be let go by employers and less likely to be hired than older workers during a recession. So more must be done to ensure that we do not lose a generation of workers to this pandemic. If we don't act, it is clear that the consequences of the pandemic will scar our economy for decades to come. The recent Fair Work in Scotland report reveals that Scotland is not going to meet the ambition of becoming a fair work nation by 2025 unless bold and urgent action is taken now. So it's extremely disappointing that the Scottish Conservatives' contribution to the debate today is to remove the reference in my motion to exploitative and low-paid work. Denying the existence of the underlying problems in our economy is certainly not the way to achieve fair work. In fact, I think that removal says all that people need to know about the Tories' attitude to workers in Scotland. And because Scottish Labour is supportive of the devolution of employment law with a UK floor built in, as proposed by the STUC, we are able to support the Scottish Government amendment today. But what we don't want to see is a race to the bottom on workers' conditions. So we should be encouraging in this Parliament a race to the top. I'll give way to Mr Mason.
John Mason.
I thank the member very much for giving way. Would she
consider that either the UK government should increase the statutory minimum wage or they should allow us to do that?
Monica Lennon.
Well, on these benches, we want to see an increase to not just the statutory minimum wage, but also to the real living wage. And I'll come on to the importance of that in a moment. Because what I wanted to say to Mr Mason before he intervened is that with greater powers over employment law, yes, there is more we can do. For example, to get rid of the Anti-Trade Union Act that was brought in by the Tories, and we could see more done on living wage across Scotland. But I would say to Mr Mason and his colleagues on those benches that that is not an excuse or cover for inaction on behalf of the Scottish Government. But I'll come to that further on as well. So we do need to put workers' rights at the heart of the recovery. I hope that we mostly agree on that. And I'm happy to give way to Sandra White if she wants to join in.
Sandra White.
Thank you so much. I just want to ask Monica Lennon if she could answer the question which John Mason asked, but also could she tell the rest of the Parliament why they did not support the inclusion of employment law in the Smith Commission, even though the STUC and the SNP supported it?
Monica Lennon.
Well, I'm making it clear to Parliament that Scottish Labour not just is supporting the government, but we are saying it is our policy that we will make a positive case for the devolution of employment law. It is a shame when we are coming to the Chamber to agree with the government that that's not enough for Sandra White and John Mason. They want to go back to the arguments of 2014. We want to focus on the future. And for example, if we can talk about this government's record, which I think that's why we're getting some interruptions. For example, the Scottish Government, local authorities, the NHS and other public bodies spend around £11 billion a year on goods and services. This financial clout of the state could be used for good, but the most recent Scottish Procurement Annual Report showed just 100,000 jobs were supported from £10 billion worth of public sector procurement contracts, and less than 1% of SMEs benefited from procurement spend. That is a huge missed opportunity. That's not the Tories in Westminster, that's the SNP here in Edinburgh. So it is a huge missed opportunity for Scotland's government to act, to bring about fair work in the, I'll make some progress for now, to bring about fair work in the economy. But we need to have progressive procurement. I hope the Minister would agree on that point. And we need to be clear that the public sector, I'll continue, the public sector must not reward companies and organisations that engage in blacklisting, operate zero-hour contracts and pay below the living wage. It should reward companies with fair work and sustainability at the heart, grow local businesses and could even support those who have struggled as a result of this pandemic. So we need bold action. We need investment to stimulate a green and just recovery in Scotland that creates high-skilled, well-paid jobs in the sectors of the future to stave off the prospect of sustained high levels of unemployment. Raise productivity and living standards to tackle poverty and ensure high-quality public services, not more cuts to local government that have come from the government benches. Reduce social, economic and regional inequality. We need a recovery for all of Scotland and decarbonise the economy, tackle environmental breakdown in line with Scottish Labour's target of reaching net zero by 2045. Because on these benches, we are committed to achieving full employment. With the private sector already suffering, the only way to prevent rising unemployment is for the state to act. Scottish Labour has a bold plan to invest in skills and infrastructure, including social infrastructure, that will improve our quality of life, tackle climate change and create good jobs. In terms of support for businesses, we know that lockdowns have been necessary, but they've placed an enormous financial strain on many businesses, including and in particular smaller firms without cash reserves. Scottish Government schemes have helped some firms to stay afloat, but for others the support has been patchy and difficult to access. And estimates have found that up to a third of these businesses could struggle to repay these government-backed loans, meaning there is a significant risk that many Scottish businesses could face insolvency. Around 1 million jobs are dependent on Scotland's small business and self-employed community. Harnessing the power of Scottish small firms to create jobs will be key to our recovery from the pandemic, and we must see more support for businesses that are most at risk. And I've not been able to follow everything that the Chancellor has said today, but I have been inundated, like my colleagues, hopefully across the chamber will be aware of this, that self-employed people have been begging for support for a year. And again, with the Tories, it's always too little, too late. I want to mention community wealth building. It's in our motion. Radical change can be achieved where there is political will in this Parliament. Community wealth building is one example of where powers need to be harnessed. Councillor Joe Cullinane and the Labour-led Council at North Ayrshire launched Scotland's first community wealth building strategy last year. Its aim is to repurpose the local economy so that it works for local people and protects the environment. As part of the economic recovery, our collective aim should be to replicate the success seen in North Ayrshire nationwide. And I mentioned to some of the key workers who've kept our country going and looked after people in most needs. I was really pleased when this Parliament came together to pass into the emergency legislation the social care support fund to make sure that low-paid care workers didn't have to make do on statutory sick pay or go without any wage at all. But that showed that there was a political will to act, and we did that. But we need to look beyond that and see how we can make these conditions more permanent for the future. In conclusion, because I've lost a bit of time with interventions, Presiding Officer, we need a recovery that puts people first, especially all those key workers who've kept the country going and those most affected by the harms of lockdown. Scottish Labour will go into the election to put forward a case for doing things differently, because Scotland has been unequal for too long. I am confident we will get through the storm of COVID together, but we need to enact bold change and pursue a green recovery that leaves no one behind. As the country heads to the polls in 64 days, the vision for reshaping our economy and society should be front and centre. We are determined that the next Parliament should be about rebuilding and reshaping the economy to build a people's recovery that delivers fairness for all. That is a choice the country faces, and that is why we will continue to make the case for a fairer future. I move the motion in my name.